Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Happy Musicians Podcast, where it's not about getting the gig, it's about enjoying the gig. I'm your host, Tanner Guss, and I'm joined this week by Mikel Patrick Avery. And Mikel is a bit of a challenge to explain. He does a lot. He's an amazing drummer and composer. He also does film and photography and other forms of art and combines them all into these amazing projects. And I guess he's what you might describe as an interdisciplinary artist. But even for himself, it's hard to distill what it is that he offers into a few short sentences. I mean, for this reason, his website is literally just a photo of him and his contact information, because it's hard to give some kind of representation for what it is that he does, except for experiencing it. So maybe the best way to get some reference for this interview would be to pause this episode real quick and go check out some of his projects that he has available online. You can go to his YouTube page and check out some of my favorites, maybe Music for Half-Size Piano, or a short film he did last year called Batter. He's also a part of several other important art projects in the world as a sideman, including Theaster Gates and the Black Monks, and Joshua Abrams and Natural Information Society. I think checking these out before you listen to this interview will give you some cool reference for where he's coming from as an artist. But suffice to say, he's someone who's making music at a very high level, pretty quietly, and he's not caught up in this whole social media, entrepreneurial, marketing strategy, world that we live in now as musicians. And it's refreshing. In our interview, we talk about his goal to reignite his 14-year-old self-joy for making music. We talk about escaping the shackles of tradition and how to be yourself as an artist, and how this is different as a sideman and as a leader. And he also offers some really cool methods for practice and self-analysis, and there's just a lot of great moments in this episode. I'm glad you get to hear it. There are a couple times where I try to, take a stab at what his reasons or thoughts behind certain artistic decisions were, and he laughs, and the reasons are just way simpler than I was making them out to be. But it doesn't seem to take away from the beauty or impact of them. It maybe makes it more accessible. I don't know. There's a lot to be had in this interview, and I'm glad you get to hear it. Thank you for being here, and please help me welcome Mikel Patrick Avery. Cool. Mikel Patrick Avery, welcome to the Happy Musicians Podcast.
Thanks for having me. I don't do interviews often, probably for good reason. I never like the sound of my voice, first off, and then what I say secondly, so you've been warned.
A strong plug already for this show. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to do this then.
Oh, thank you.
I feel that way too, though. I'm always listening back at my own voice, thinking...
No, in my head, I sound like Morgan Freeman, and then I hear it back, I sound like Kermit the Frog, and it's just terrible.
Do you ever feel that way about listening to yourself play, too? Like listening back? Or do you not have that same feeling?
No, I'm amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, of course. What kind of asshole listens back and is like, I'm amazing? Yeah, I mean, I go through that. I think most people, maybe not like John Mayer or someone, but I think most musicians, public speakers, writers, by the time something's out for someone to digest it, it's hard to listen to, because it kind of, in a way, the work's never done, and you always feel like today I'm a much better person than I was yesterday, and I'm always confident in the moment, but I can count on tomorrow feeling like, man, if I just made it today, mm-hmm. So it's just that relationship with things, of knowing that it's a long-term thing, But yeah, listening to myself is awful. But I record almost everything for private use, just sometimes the thing that you're hearing that you think you're doing, and then you hear it back and you're like, oh, yeah, that didn't come off at all. Or it was something else entirely. And then just trying to make that gap of what's happening and what you think is happening smaller with each day,
Yeah.
with every medium, whether it's music or photography or film work or whatever.
Right. Well, that makes a lot of sense. And I guess that is a good way to get into something I wanted to ask you right off the bat. And that goes along with this idea of, I think, of finding your voice in art, what you want to do, and coming up with an identity for yourself that maybe can give you some kind of purpose. And I think you describe yourself as an interdisciplinary artist, right?
Roughly. I think that maybe answers some things enough things for people, when I'm interacting with folk, because the most common thing I get is like, what do you do again? Or, I heard you quit drumming to take up photography. It's like, just because I put out a photo book or something, it's like that relationships with other mediums can be confusing to scenes of people that dedicate their entire lives to one medium. And I'm sensitive to that. I know where it's coming from. So multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, these things are existing terms that help people understand what you're doing, if that makes sense,
Yeah, but they're not really for you or how you experience yourself. Or
you asked about the identity.
Yeah.
There are people that can sit down and like construct an identity and execute it and display it, and it's very clear, and they move forward with it, and it works. That's not really how. It's just not how I view my existence. It's not how I like to operate. There are times maybe where I fought that. But at this stage of my life, I'm just embracing the fact that, like, I'm just equally interested in everything. And not in the, Renaissance person approach of like, he does everything. Which to me just means you don't really do jack shit for real, Yeah. I'm obsessive in nature, and I really like learning things. And we're at this time where learning how to do something isn't that difficult.
Yeah.
It might be my delusion to have that opinion, but I really don't think learning things is that difficult. There's, hundreds of videos on YouTube of 8-year-olds telling you how to, program things or play guitar,
Yeah.
I mean, every time I get a hiccup in a program on my computer, it's like I'll scour the internet and like go through 100 different forums, and then the thing that is the answer is some like 8-year-old in Kentucky is like, here's what you do first, and it's like, oh my god, this kid has just saved my life.
Yeah.
The how is not hard. It's the what is for me the bigger the bigger challenge, that I see. You see online, everyone knows how to play drums. It's like in the early 90s, when I started playing drums, I felt like there was like 20 kids that knew how to play drums. You would hear about like Tony Royster, like, oh my god, this kid is amazing, blah blah blah. And it's like, now it's like, oh no, I didn't know that like literally every 10-year-old is amazing at the drums, and they're having fun, and that's amazing, that's great. And I think some people catch it early, and some later on, of like, cool, now that I know how to do a thing, what am I going to do with this?
Yeah.
really, really, what am I going to do with it? So yeah, the what is the identity part, I guess, and just letting ideas tell me what to do. So if it's a certain subject matter or content or a musical idea, instead of trying to force an identity onto that thing, let that idea inform me on what comes next or where it should be placed. And letting that be the guiding factor in whatever it is that I'm doing. So it's, it's just has a root somewhere.
Yeah. Okay.
Bottom up instead of top down,
Yeah, that makes sense. So the how you're doing it is the medium you're using, whether that's music or film or photography, and the what is the idea you're trying to get across. And do you ever think about the why in these scenarios, like what the end maybe impact you're trying to have with that project is, or do you tend to leave that up to the person who's experiencing it?
Yeah, that's not up to me.
Yeah.
The why for me personally changes from day to day. Mm-hmm. You can ask me, what did you mean when you did this? And it's like, I could give you an answer, but tomorrow, depending on my mood, I might have a different answer. These things change over time, Things like titles or like song titles or like naming a photograph. These things has nothing to do with the sound or the photograph. Mm-hmm. Man with apple. It's like, yeah, great, okay, but it's a photograph, so we view it. You can change the name tomorrow. And connecting these titles with things, I think does too much. It diminishes your audience's ability of being able to digest things on their own terms.
Okay.
So yeah, when it comes to why, it really doesn't. It really does not matter to me.
Okay.
I also am not one to seek out an audience. Sounds like a nightmare. Yeah, not that I don't want one, but people ask, why don't you tour with some of these things or hook up with a label or this or promotion or whatever. It's just not where. So far, it's not where things belong for me. At the moment, I really value the projects that I'm involved in that I don't lead, and that relationship, and that's an entirely different thing from my own practice and the things that I do on my own. And I work with people that I find amazing. They're my friends, but I also find them to be my mentors. And to commit yourself to another person's thing to hopefully make it better with you than if you were, not in it.
Yeah.
So how do you make it easier? Everyone has I would imagine everyone has an idea of themselves, the next idea of themselves. Even like Keith Richards, as fucking amazing as Keith Richards is, right now, Keith Richards, I would bet, has an idea of what he wants to be next. The next part of his life to make himself better. And when I'm involved in someone else's project, I'm curious about that. What about what that person's doing? What in their mind is the next thing that makes it better? That has nothing to do with like You know, I want to play at Wembley Stadium or some shit, you know. And can I help facilitate that in any way? So with the skill sets that I do on my own, for my own projects, is like, okay, does me playing drums help this thing out? Is photography useful at all? You know, I'm a bigger guy and I can carry things. You know,
Can I use that skill?
Yeah, like I mean, for real, it's like these are things that I think don't get mentioned when you're learning how to play instruments or you're talking about like getting a career in this music. It's like, you know, how do you be on the road for 2 weeks and not be a pain in the ass? You know. Yeah, so that relationship with other people's projects, I really love investing in, and they feed what I do at home, or you know, my own practice, and then vice versa. The things that I do on my own feed back to them.
Yeah,
You know, taking up photography, I believe, makes me a better musician. Playing with Joshua Abrams and Natural Information Society makes me a better photographer. That these things are all equal and balanced, you know.
yeah. Not having some kind of separation between yourself as a musician and then yourself as a person, yourself as a photographer, all these things, just letting them be you.
Yeah, and the idea of having your own practice and being involved in someone else's practice, you know, that can be confusing, because aesthetically things might be different, you know, content might be different, the performance, you know, just stage presence might be different than what you would present for your own project. So it's like, how much of yourself you need to be able to be your full self at all times. So finding, when you're involved in a particular project, it's like, this demands this part of me. These other parts of me have no use right now. But this particular part of me is absolutely being called upon. And I'm interested in staying in this part for 2 weeks and exploring that universe.
Wow, I like that a lot.
So yeah, that's just where I'm at right now. And you know, the city that I was just living in, Chicago, is full of people that have their own musical identity, but they all have. I would say a lot of them have that relationship with being in each other's projects. It's just a very special place for that, you know.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like you are just trying to be as empathetic and understanding as possible of what the other person wants out of it, and so that you can embody the part of you that best suits that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm 37. I know some shit.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it would be easy to come into a situation and be like, you know, I've been doing this for well over half my life. I know some shit. I read some books. You know, I got a thing and I'm going to bring it, you know. But like, I really love the idea of mentorship, even among friends. That certain things should be put aside.
Yeah.
And it's taken me a while to learn that, you know. Working with really great people has taught me that and how to do that. And then having great mentors do that. But, you know, I feel like I get to play with my friends. That's what it feels like, you know. But all my friends, you know, I feel like I'm a better person after hanging out with them. I feel like I'm winning from the
Yeah.
the hang.
Yeah.
Even if it's like go out for a drink, and bitch and moan for some shit. It's like I still feel like I won. I got to hang out with like Michael Jordan or some shit.
Yeah.
So, but these are my friends on top of that, and some of them have become my friends through work, and some of them were my friends before the work started. So, I don't know if that answers anything, but
Yeah, I think it's better than you give it credit for. But I'm really interested in this way that you approach how you present your art, and that it's kind of a counterculture to the popular thing these days, which is social media and everyone talking about the business side. How are you going to market this? How are you going to grow your audience? How are you going to get into these bigger things, as if the audience that you have now isn't enough? You have to be thinking about more and more and more. And you seem, I don't want to put words in your mouth or have this come across as a negative way, or just content with whoever is viewing it. That's enough. It's not about that. It's just about the project that you're making.
Yeah, I mean it. It drives, a girl I consider my sister, who's now a PR person. She harks on me. She's pretty harshly. I don't push. I'm just not interested in it. I'm just not, if someone is interested or somehow finds in the desert of things something that I do and they're interested in it, I love them for it, and I want to share space and talk and hang. I would never approach you to do this interview. I guess is what I'm saying. You could tell me you did the podcast. We could know each other for years. I would never ask you to do this. And that's at the frustration of some people around me, because some people that know me and know of some of the things that I have done or want to do, they're like, you really should blah, blah. Look, I work with people that work really hard, and they work really hard to get really amazing work that's hard to get. I commit to them, and I see what they go through, and the opportunities that come my way, they come, and I either say yes or I say no. It doesn't. I'm not eager to say yes. So, if it means a great opportunity but conceding in something that I find valuable, I'll never do it. I just won't do it. I don't give a fuck about the money or opportunity. I just won't do it. I have no reason to do it.
Yeah.
But I guess that, you asked about the website. My website's just my name and contact information. It's structured that way because, I don't know how to build a website that could easily describe to someone the things that I could do. I also don't know how to describe the things that I can do. So, the site is literally just there for, like, if someone comes across something and they're like, hey, I like this. How do I find this guy? And they're like, oh, here's how I contact him. And then when they contact me, I learn of whatever it is that they solve, the reason that they're contacting me. Mm-hmm. It's a much nicer conversation than an online portfolio or whatever. And I like social media. It's great. I got a thing.
Yeah.
But it's purely for fun. I have these. I was posting some things for a while. Like the last person on the planet to join Instagram, it feels like. And I was posting some things, and I only shoot black and white photography, but for like daily fun stuff, it's with your phone or whatever. I would post something and people were like, oh, I love that, your photography. They were talking about some color photo of like me hanging out at a restaurant or some shit. I was like, oh yeah, this needs to change. It needs to be very clear.
Yeah.
What is the photography and what is just a document of life. Mm-hmm. So I just switched to Polaroids.
Yeah.
Because it just seemed more clear. It also means that there's other things that people won't see now, Mm-hmm. That's okay,
Yeah, how you've laid out your Instagram is one of the most aesthetically pleasing Instagram profiles I've seen.
Well, they're just
like how it goes through.
They're just Polaroids.
Yeah.
But it's like the transition from, how old are you?
22.
Yeah, okay. So there was gather around the fire. There was a thing called MySpace. And then that was a digital nightmare, and then Facebook, and now Facebook's becoming a bit of a digital nightmare. And these things are transferring, and that's how things work. But in the process, information's being lost. Archives are being lost. So I like Polaroids because, I have a couple binders full of Polaroids that, when Instagram takes a shit, I'm not going to lose these moments that I want to remember.
Yeah.
That's it,
Mm-hmm. Well, it seems to me, just viewing, just your home and the things that you collect from history and the parts from historic antique knickknacks or mm-hmm. these relics that maybe people from my generation would view as unimportant or not useful, and you find uses for them in your music and art or just in daily ways, and you seem to give value to these things that maybe are being looked over.
Well, that's a statement of finances. I play 18-inch Zildjian A cymbals, vintage A cymbals, because those were the cheapest shits you could find. Period. Now I don't know. I have too many at this point to be buying some more. But you could find them for a quarter of the cost of, a 20 to 24 inch.
Okay.
The drums that I play were the shit that no one cares about or wanted, True with the instruments. It's just like it's the cheapest shit. And it's like, okay, cool. I want a guitar. What's my favorite guitar? Okay, let me look that up. Oh, okay. Yeah, not gonna get that. Okay, what's the cheapest guitar? That's garbage. Okay, let's go old. What's old nice guitars are really expensive. Old shitty cheap guitars, like a Sears guitar, is kind of amazing. You can find one of them joints for $100. You put a little bit of effort to it. Some 8-year-old on YouTube helps you out, and then you got a working guitar that's a rocker.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, people come over and they're like, "Oh my goodness, this instrument is it's so mindfully picked," or whatever. The things that people say. Well, it's like, it's out of necessity. I wanted a guitar. Mm-hmm. Or needed a guitar,
Yeah.
So, yeah, and over the course of 20 years, you end up having a bunch of stuff that is, would be considered unusual and usually old and usually unwanted.
Yeah.
So that, as far as relationship with history in that regard to objects, it's just, it's just money. I think it's important to, I gave a talk a couple months ago talking about filmmaking, and, on a shoot, and you have two lenses, and you frame the shot. You try to figure out which lens you can't figure out which one lens to use. You know, you got a 24. I think it's a 24 Olympus Ohm and a 35. You know, nerd stuff, but you know, you have to move closer or farther away for one or the other. But it just, how the background looks, you either get more of the background or less of the background. Nerd stuff. Couldn't figure out which one to use. So I just picked one, did the shot, and then found out after the project that I wasn't supposed to use either one of them. You know, to get what I intended. But that particular shot for me made the film. So now I use that lens for everything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Necessity. Out of necessity comes a personal aesthetic. And if you recognize that, you can hang with that and that becomes your thing. And if you do research, it's like, that's kind of how everyone rocks. Everyone that I dig kind of rocks it, you know? George Lucas making films out in the desert, you know? If you're trying to do something and there's no like manual to do it, you have to do something in the moment. And then people recognize the aesthetic of the thing. And you either expect it upon yourself or other people expect it upon you to reproduce that. Even though it might be the thing you weren't supposed to do, you know? So, yeah. Objects in history, that's my relationship. Now, the other history of like, you know, the people who have done this before, that, you know, that's a different conversation. I think maybe you could assume that I have great appreciation and respect for anybody who's done anything creative, successfully or not.
Just to have had the courage to try to do something creative and put it out.
Yeah. Period. I am not. I don't feel bound to anything. You know, that conversation around tradition. I guess that would be the tradition that I would be bound to. Would be
to be unbound.
To be unbound.
Yeah. So you have a relationship where you can draw inspiration and ideas from history, but you don't feel maybe haunted or ever like feel like you can't live up to that legacy or do your own thing, you know?
Yeah. I mean, the moment that you start pulling from one source, you know, as a source of inspiration, I think that you're asking for trouble. Because that one source has an infinite number of influences influencing that one source. And it's just like a really bad funnel, you know? I always, you know, when I'm around younger musicians, you know, high school, maybe early college, something that helped me was, you know, you often come across, especially when you're learning and you the desire is so great, but also the influence of others is so great that you know, it's very apparent that, oh, that saxophone player is really into that person, that other person that everybody knows. And then the challenge is to find, you know, let's say you have one great influence and you kind of sound just like that person, you know. Ask yourself, well, who is Sonny Rollins' favorite two saxophone players? And of those two, who are those two favorite saxophone players, you know? And you can bridge that into architecture, food, places, cities, you know, to get this like larger view of the thing. So it's not such a literal interpretation of some one person or one idea. That's if you're having trouble getting out from the shackles of history or tradition, which, you know, I made my bed with, you know, a few years ago, maybe.
Yeah, that's cool. I think that's maybe those shackles are on pretty strong for a lot of people. Maybe more my age, as we're leaving school and we've been doing all this studying.
Because we got people like fucking Sonny Rollins.
Yeah.
Sonny Rollins is the shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, shit, when I was 20, I wanted to be Max Roach, period. It was like, I was not ready to know.
Yeah, okay.
You know, that I was not ready to even, I wasn't ready to know that I am the only person like me in all of human history. And I'm the only person that will be me for the rest of human history. And I got like maybe 90 years. If I'm with my genes, I got like 60. So, you know, when it comes to someone else, I want to hear the ideas in your head.
Yeah.
And like I said, at 20, I wasn't ready to know that kind of thing, you know. And it takes time. Some people it takes no time. They've got that, you know, they get it really early on. And, you know, because Max Roach is amazing. And if you're 20 and you're like me who can't play, it's really easy to have Max Roach fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
That's easy. Everyone else is going to figure out, oh, okay, I know how to play with him now. Meanwhile, you're sacrificing your most valuable tool, which is yourself.
Yeah.
You know, I understand why it happens. I mean, it happens, and will continue to happen to me in some capacity. But yeah, Anyway.
Well, do you think that was actually really powerful? But I'm curious, when you say you weren't ready to know, do you think you have an idea of what made you ready to know, or is it just a matter of one day feeling like you have a voice and maybe those ideas are more authentic in your own
90s angst? I mean, I started playing, if you're interested at all.
I am.
Oh, okay. I started playing based on a lie. You know, 6th grade, I see this dude. You know, we moved from Milwaukee to Oshkosh, an all-black community, to an all-white community, right? And years in Oshkosh, and I love that city. I mean, I would move back to Oshkosh. I fucking love that city. But you know, no one looks like you except for your brother, you know. And then like no one listens to the same music as your house is listening to. So there's like a certain disconnect that happens. No real rubbing, but just like, you know, you're not relating to people the same way. But, you know, I had friends and having a good time and some shit. 6th grade, this dude walks down the hallway with long hair, baggy clothes, and a skateboard and a guitar. And I was just like, that dude. Like, I've never seen this. Whatever he's doing, I want in, you know. And he had a couple friends. They were all skaters. And, you know, I Scooby-Dooed my way over to the lunch table, you know. Immediately got on, and, you know, they're like, we have a band, we're looking for a drummer. Do you play drums? And I was like, yes.
And to this point, had you ever played the drums?
Never. I was like, I don't care, man. Whatever it is to kick it with you guys. So he's like, he goes, cool, meet us in the band room after school. And I was like, shit.
Oh, you didn't even have a day to prepare.
So
it's not like you could hop online and ask an 8-year-old yet. We weren't at that point.
Yeah, right.
You would have been okay now.
Yeah. The Matrix was not invented yet. No kung fu. So I get to the band room, and I set up the drums. And I got like the floor tom between my legs, the hi-hats on the right side, the bass drums over to the left.
You just were guessing.
I'm just throwing darts.
They're probably like, though, well, this guy's crazy.
Yeah,
this guy's.
And to this day, his name's Aaron Pantson. Well, one of my dearest. We keep up every now and again, but one of my I have so much love for that dude. His name is actually out in the middle of that painting there, and the middle one there.
Oh,
is an homage to him. But
cool.
He, we went through it. I had a rock band. Eventually, I made some drums out of stuff, and my folks were just glad that I was clinging on to something, so they got an old Kent drum set from the Classifieds. My dad picks me up, we go pick it up, take it home, and I'm banging on it, and I just hear my mom downstairs, "You spent rent on what?" I go, okay, keep going. And yeah, we were, recording every day. He had microphones and an 8-track cassette recorder, and he played me Hendrix for the first time. My brain exploded, and every day going to his house and playing and recording, and unfortunately all of that stuff got lost in a flood. His basement flooded. In my mind, they were like they're like lost Beatles tapes, but they were probably awful, but maybe a good awful. But that energy is the only thing I'm interested in doing right now. That 14-year-old self, that 13-year-old self, of just doing because it feels good, and it feels important, it's taken me a long, I navigated away from that, eventually, got into a jazz program with a great mentor, and then went through that line, the thing just started shedding away. And not until, 3 or 4 years ago that I realized, when I was 13, that was it. Like that existence is the thing. It's taken this route, and I'm glad I've done that route, but learning where your strengths are and doubling down on them, working on them, understanding things you don't do that well, and making a decision of do I have to work on this thing, or can I let it go? And not letting it go out of laziness, letting it go because it's like, I don't really dig doing that.
Yeah.
We were at a jam session the other night. I've been wanting to go to this session I've been here for a year.
Yeah.
I like going to jam sessions. I don't like playing at them. I just don't. I don't like what happens musically. I never feel good afterwards, and I don't feel like I get anything out of it, and I'm not serving anything. It's just not it. Therefore, it's like I'd rather sit and hang, because everyone else has the relationship with the thing that I wish I had with it. Or not wish I had with it, but if I had that same relationship with it, I would certainly go play at a jam session. But it took years of playing at jam sessions to figure that out. Going home and feeling awful, being like, man, do I even play the drums?
Yeah.
You sit down at the kit, and I'm just like, man, I don't. One day you feel like Hercules. You're like, I'm a drum god. you know. And then the next day you're like, I think I don't know what to do with my life, you know. And that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. Just to put yourself through that.
I think it's important to go through it and really go through. I mean, it's for me, it's like it's a necessity to go through it.
Okay.
But also, like, it's okay afterwards, after a period of doing it, to be like, this is not for me. How can I help facilitate this environment in a different way? So the environment's very important. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying that for me, myself, okay, maybe I can document it. I'm also the type of person that will produce a jam session. You know, these are other parts of me that can contribute to this thing that I find important that I can't really function in.
Yeah.
And that's fine, you know. I forget what the original thing was, but I'm sorry. But yeah, the 13-year-old self, 14-year-old self, that energy.
Yeah, no, I think that's amazing. And I guess the main question I would have would be, is that after you talked about kind of shedding that place and doing all these other things and now coming back to it, have you been able to find it again? Is it still there? Or are you still...
Yeah, totally.
I guess that's the important maybe ray of hope that a lot of us would be searching for as well, is that if maybe you feel like you've forgotten how to do that thing again, but you're finding it again.
Yeah. I mean, everything I'm working on right now is not being asked by anybody, you know. It's not, I have this fortunate relationship with things where I travel for work and creativity. And then when I come home, since I don't, I'm not playing in New Orleans like I was in Chicago. Partially on purpose, I wanted to have this time to just come home and just read the books I was supposed to read 20 years ago and do the writing I was supposed to do or been wanting to do. And some of the projects I've wanted to do, never got time to. So, but that space of being at home and making things totally, I mean, it feels straight up like 1994 to me, which is like, this is the best I've felt as an adult,
Yeah.
It's just the best I've felt. So.
That's really awesome.
Yeah, it's great. I recommend it.
Yeah. Well, I had one more question for you before we maybe move on to these closing questions, but you have a pretty fun, energetic side to the way that you teach and play, and you'll incorporate things that are more humorous and have an entertainment aspect. And I'm wondering how you've gotten to this place where you feel comfortable using humor and being yourself. And have you ever been worried about the seriousness and the authenticity of what you're doing being taken for granted because you weren't projecting yourself super seriously?
No.
Cool. Yeah.
No. I've got a small book. What do you call it when iTunes send you the shit when they do the update? Terms of agreement or something like that, right?
Yeah, the license agreement. I don't know what it's called. Yeah.
I have a book just for myself that I read every morning. It's a list of sayings, basically like a life agreement to myself. But one of them is count on work, which is maybe to my own delusion, I don't worry about being taken seriously because every inch of every moment that I have is dedicated to work. That sounds delusional, but again, what other people think of something is not at all a concern of mine. So there's that. But for myself, I'll keep chipping away at the thing until it feels right for me. I'll often come up with an idea and it's too silly for me. And I love humor. I like having fun. I like playful things. I wouldn't describe myself as a silly person. So I guess that is the thing for myself, that if there's silliness involved, I try to slap it away, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, I take education really seriously and have for over the past decade, where I'm dealing with an environment where something needs to be engaging, entertaining, fulfilling.
Yeah.
And if it's not those things, you fail. And failure, in some cases, to your audience, which would be students, can mean life or death.
Yeah.
So, in my classrooms, we play a lot of games. And I do a lot of experiential learning techniques, and if you were to pop in my classroom, you would maybe think that we're not working on anything, because I want the kids to not even realize that they're learning.
Yeah.
I want them to have fun. I want them to leave being like, that was fun. Oh shit, we know about Rube Goldberg machines. Like, so, I'm not an advocate for having your teaching practice over here, and that subsidizes your creative practice. I think those two can be married in a way, where me in a classroom, or me, doing an installation or anything else, doing a film, there's no difference between those things. That, of course, there would be like this kind of cross of materials and approach between the two, because I don't try to keep those two separate. So yes, I totally understand. I mean, this is especially in jazz, humor is, if we're talking just jazz, not, I don't know enough about art history to talk on that part of it. But with jazz, humor, entertainment, these things can be 4-letter words, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So there's often a doubling down of seriousness.
Right.
And rightfully so. So it is, my relationship with that, being a person of color, is that if something's going to involve, let's say, a toy, or something that is more related to theater or entertainment on the stage, and it also involves jazz, I really have to work it through to the point to present it to someone. Really has to be thought through to the point where I'm not concerned about that for myself. If you know what I'm talking about. So
Yeah.
Because of the source of a lot of the what would be considered humor in what I do, because of the source is literally enriching children's lives. That's the source of my kids. It's not humor for like a selfish, like, I want to be the funny guy in the room.
Yeah.
I'm never the funniest guy in the room. I tell a lot of jokes, but nobody laughs. But that's not the intention of it.
Yeah.
You know? It's this other thing.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
That'll bring us to our coda question round, which are 5 short answer questions.
Oh, shit.
Clearly going to go extremely well. The first one is, what's your go-to feel-good album?
Do these have to be quick?
They can be. We can also
Okay.
cut out some thinking time.
No. Oh, I can answer quickly. Do you want why?
Sure, yeah.
Oh, okay. Go.
Okay, what's your go-to feel-good album?
Feel good. I don't know. I would say
Or just one?
no, Ahmad Jamal's Live at the Pershing. Mm-hmm. I listen to it every day. I have since 2010. It's my practice routine. I play with that record every day.
Okay.
So it has everything in it that physically, keeps me able to do the things that I want to be able to do. And it's just an amazing record.
Yeah.
Practicing every day is a drag. That's one of those things where it's like your teenage self is like practicing. I mean, I practiced once. Practicing when you're in like a rock band was just like going home and just like rocking out for hours and having fun and like playing with Beatles records. And then like get involved with jazz, and then it's like, then it's like practicing. Like Mr. Miyagi is looking over your shoulder. It's like, God, and it's like 6 hours a day of stuff, to eventually play music. And then you get to a point where you can kind of play, and then you like wiggle worm your way into that to being somewhat good. And then it's just like, you kind of don't have to practice. The Elvin Jones things, like my practice is like a lawyer. This is my practice. Yeah, cool. But it's like, I should practice. And I only commit to that record a day. Going into it.
Yeah.
And really it's like the first 3 tracks. That's what I'll commit to. And then some days it's just those 3 tracks, and I have to go do something else. More times than not, that 3 tracks turns into the whole record, which turns into another hour,
Yeah.
But going into it, if you say you want to practice every day, commit to 10, and you're having trouble doing it, commit to 10 minutes a day. That 10 minutes will almost never be 10 minutes, because the hardest thing to do is to get started.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's 10 minutes.
Awesome.
Ahmad Jamal's Live at the Pershing.
Sweet. Okay. What is some impactful advice about happiness that you've received?
Say again? I'm sorry.
Some important advice about happiness that you've received.
Advice about happiness. I was this I don't know, but I always I guess I think about this more than I was in the car with Rob Mazurek, amazing artist, and we're driving to Detroit, and Tony Bennett came on, and Person Unknown kind of harked on Tony Bennett. I love Tony Bennett, and I'm sitting in the back, and Rob's response was, "What's the matter? You don't like beauty?" And I don't know why, but that always resonated with me,
Yeah.
Of like,
No.
yeah, you did.
So, on the flip side, what if you could just give one piece of advice to some young musicians, maybe high school, college aged, what would it be?
If it's hard, you're doing something wrong.
That is the opposite of what some people would say. If it's hard, then you're doing the right thing,
It's small, achievable goals. That's all this thing is. you have to accept that the thing's gonna be shit for longer than you maybe want it to be. But it's like, if it's hard, you're trying to skip something.
Yeah.
You know, like what I was talking about earlier about like not being ready to know, being eager to figure it out, but not ready to know. You know, there's patience. Yeah, it should be fun. And for it to be fun, it should I'm talking about hard, you know. It's rough, man. Like I know, you know, there's a few folks I know, they work real hard at being a musician. And like they just can't, no one calls them. They're good, you know. And they do all the right things that are on paper, and just no one calls them. Because of, you know, I don't know, you know. Maybe someone doesn't think they're cool or something. You know, dumb shit. And maybe it'll get figured out later on. That's hard, you know. You're dedicating your life to this thing that most people don't even know about. And there's only a few people that really dig it, and those few people aren't calling you. That's hard, you know. And I think everybody's experienced that if you do this long enough, that's a hard feeling. So anything to if that's going, you know, something's not right. You're skipping something, or you're missing something.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the thing that will make you happiest and allow you to be creative might not be the thing you're pointing at. You just can't see it yet, you know. It's over. It's like you just turn to the left and the entire universe is there for you. But you're like due diligent on this thing on the right. You're just staring at it down, and it just does not want you. And you just look left, and the whole, you know, everything is there for you. Yeah. You just take a step that way, and all of a sudden, everything to the right starts looking, and then everything's solved.
Yeah.
You dig? Mm-hmm. Patience and like, yeah, I guess, yeah, this thing's too hard to not have fun. So like, whatever is hard, you're skipping something or missing something. Just look a little bit.
Man, that was awesome. Okay, two more. This one is, who's a musician in your life who you think is pursuing music in a healthy, happy, and fulfilling way?
Happy, healthy, and fulfilling way. I mean, yeah, I could go down the list of people, you know. Do I have to name one?
No.
Well, you know, you could go down the list of, like, I mean, Joshua Abrams, The Gates, Ben Lamar Gay, Rob Mazurek. These are people that, among, you know.
Yeah, among many. Yeah.
I mean,
I guess from my perception, there's a smaller number in that list than maybe we would like to see, just because of how hard things are. So
yeah, these are people that I also know personally. You could speak larger of people that I know well, but you know, it's also perception. Yeah, because you know, you can smile in a photograph. Yeah, you know, I may know the person, I may be friends with them, but I don't know their relationship with what they're doing. People I mentioned, I feel like I have a close relationship with them, so I feel safe with saying that. Yeah. But you know, maybe the most interesting would be my father, who has taken up singing in recent years, only as a karaoke cowboy singer.
Amazing.
He lives in the middle of nowhere in Wisconsin. Middle of nowhere, Waupaca County, outside of Wapaka, kind of in the middle of nowhere. He's got some goats and horses and chickens and cowboy hat, the whole nine. And he goes to karaoke bars and sings, sometimes covers, but he also writes his own tunes and collects like tape machines and writes his own songs during the week and then brings them to the thing. He's going to be 70, and he just picked that up, and, you know, he loves it. And you won't find a happier person on earth than when he's singing for people, you know. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. Karaoke cowboy.
Yeah, amazing.
That's
okay, and the last one is, and sometimes people don't have an answer, and that's fine. But I'm curious if, in your mind, do you have a direct purpose for what you're doing with music right now?
No.
Cool. Yeah.
I guess the common line. Usually, when people talk about purpose, they talk about. At least I interpret it as in what would you like people to take away from it, or what would you? I don't know, but if you can make something that in any way directly or indirectly provides some type of light to someone else, you know, I think that's cool. Hopefully whatever you're making, it creates a light, you know, and you might have complete negative response to something that you made, you know.
Yeah.
Everyone hates it. Good example, did a residency at the Stony Island Arts Bank for I think 2 years, 1 year. Got done with a performance, and this woman comes up to me. While shaking my hand, she goes, "That is the worst thing I've ever seen."
Wow.
I felt so honored. I was like, I get that distinction. That's great. And she was old too. So it was like, she has seen some shit. And I am the worst. Not only that, she made it a point to come all the way up to tell me that. It was like, that felt important. And then literally the next woman behind her said it was one of the most powerful nights that she had.
Yeah, wow.
And it's like, it's not for us to figure out what people do with things, but that the woman that didn't dig it, she couldn't make sense of it, and the woman that dug it answered hopefully answered some questions she didn't know she was asking.
Yeah,
and like either one to me provides light. One person's going to go home and be like, I'm going to make something, and as long as it's not the shit that I saw, I'm going to be happy, you know? And the other woman's like, I'm going to take this thing that not everyone digs, but it is like the missing piece of an idea of what I'm making, you know? And it's just like this continuation of like invisible influence on people that providing a light in a way that doesn't mean that, regardless of whether you're getting attention for the thing that you're doing, that its interaction with others passes that down.
Yeah.
I guess that would be purpose.
Yeah. No, this has all been really cool, and I know you will not be inclined to listen back to your own words, but I think they were real powerful. Yeah, so thank you so much.
I will never listen to this.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But I'm very grateful that you asked me, and that you caught me at an off night where I said yes.
Yeah, I got lucky. Yeah. Well, Michael, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right, that does it for this week's episode of the Happy Musicians Podcast. Right now we're listening to Machine. It's a track off of an album by Mikel called Play. And this project is pretty much a culmination of this search for his 14-year-old self that he talked about. And it's a really cool project. I encourage you to check it out. It has music combined with theater and different objects, and it's really cool. I don't know. I can't explain it. It's hard to explain anything he does, but it's awesome, and you should definitely check it out. Again, this is Machine. You can find the link to it and everything else that we talk about on the show at our website in the show notes, thehappymusicians.com. You can stay up to date by following us on social media at The Happy Musicians. And I want to encourage you, as always, to subscribe to the show, leave us a review, tell your friends about it. It is extremely helpful, honestly, in spreading this message. And you can also spread the message even further by using our hashtag #HappyMusician on any post you have of you playing or talking about your shows. It's a way for you to get involved in this community of making music from a happy, healthy, and fulfilling place. Thanks so much for listening. You devoted your time and attention to something important, and that's awesome. Hope you have a great week, and I hope you'll join us for next week's episode. Thanks, y'all, and stay happy.